reading, writing, and understanding. When I say good reading, writing, I also mean good writing and good way to understand or good understanding, whatever it is. This is a highly interactive session. The problem with online is that interaction is not well structured. So what I will do is I will cover the material for the first session and give enough time within 11:15 as scheduled so that we can interact on the issues that we have discussed. If you have any queries, clarifications, please note down. Don't have to copy the slides. Slides will be shared with you, with all the participants after my session. So just note down whatever points you want to discuss and there will be enough time for that. So this topic is important because today there is no good reading done by people. There is very little of good writing and that also is not handled well. And most teachers have a very poor level of understanding of things. So it's very necessary that we relook at this and see where we may be failing and where we need to improve. So the presentation that I propose to do is what is it that we read majority and most of the time? What does it mean to do what is good reading or reading it well? What are the characteristics of a good reader? Then we move on to writing. How or why we write? How do we know a writing is good? How to write well and effective? Then we will go into the topic of understanding, even though all the three are linked. What do we mean by understanding? Where is the difficulty in understanding what others say or others write? And what do we mean by understanding well and how we achieve it? What do we read? Mostly this. These are very popular. So this is typically a image of a newsstand by the side of the road or bus stop. And I'm sure placing may be very similar, but every day the newspapers will change, magazines will change every week almost. And there is today, thanks to online ability to produce very colorful material, there is absolutely no shortage of very inviting, very colorful, very enticing type of material that's available to us. And in all this, notwithstanding my personal choices or likes and dislikes, which is same with all of you, each one, see, this is a problem with reading, writing, and understanding. This issue is very subjective. What I like, what I think is good may not be good. You may not like it. Fair enough. It's like the choice of writers that people have. Some hate a writer and that writer may actually be a Nobel laureate. So we really don't have an objective metric to say, even though there are some which are, I would say, very universal, okay, universal appeal. We'll come to that, okay. So this is what most of us read every day, which means I also do. I pick our regular newspaper in the morning with a cup of coffee, and that takes half an hour just to get an idea of what is happening in the world since yesterday night that I slept. But definitely, these readings are very superficial. They have a very poor shelf life. They erode by evening. And tomorrow morning, you may actually have news which is exactly opposite of what you read today. So, but this is what majority of the people spend time reading, which means we read mostly to participate in the world rather than understanding the world. So that's a very very barrier-like statement that I'm making. So there are very few people who actually read, if not every day, which is a luxury today, but at least once a week, to know the world, to know the humanity, to know the past, to anticipate the future. Very few. We just seem to grab what's going on around us. Okay. And this is reading, no doubt, but this is not the kind of reading that people in the academic field should be doing. This is okay, but this cannot be the end of it. So various reasons why we read to know what's going on. We today grab the headlines to see that the Nepalese government has collapsed, mainly because of youngsters who were denied access to social media, which also means today social media is exceedingly powerful. Okay. Now, to know the state of the country or earth, what is the state of economy in the country? Wow, today again another item. The gold price has gone up by 5,000 rupees in a single day. So these are the kind of things that we would like to know as a flash.
Sorry, primary high school primary high school primary
Please unmute. Okay, you do your talking. So as I said today morning, time pass, filter coffee with Deccan Herald, which also is an advertisement. So I'm sure it is interesting that at least some reading takes place every day. The younger generation doesn't do that. They don't read newspapers. They go for flash news on the media. And to catch up with sports and politics, before the advent of TV, our only hope of knowing what was happening in various games, whether it's the World Cup football or what's happening in the European politics, was to read the newspaper. Okay? And today, to learn various games, and this has become very popular. Cooking recipes. Okay, so many recipes for different culinary cultures are available today, and people try out. Today, one of the unfortunate thing, but common item discussed seems to be pasta. So now pasta has become one word which is very common. Okay. And there are some special Sunday supplements of papers which cover some material at depth. They're very focused, either about a writer or about a travelogue or something like that. And follow the editorial or a particular columnist, which obviously, for example, many times the newspapers would sell simply because the editorial was run by Kushwant Singh or something like that. We also follow a particular columnist like uh, famous economic Nobel Prize winner in US. So they have a regular column. Okay. Also, we tend to communicate back to the society to share our perception and opinion by a small column called Letters to the Editor, where a common man's observation or attitude or perception is also given space. Not that all the letters sent to the editor is printed, but definitely there is space, which means it also explains why the power of social media today, where earlier maybe if you write 10 letters to the editor over a year, maybe one of them would get published. But today with social media, I mean, you can post everything that you want to feel like expressing onto your WhatsApp link or whatever. And then if it merits either way, if it is good or bad, it will become viral. And everybody else who is not connected with you also receives it. So this is what we all read. Okay. We as teachers are a unique group of people. We read textbooks. We read for doing our research. And many of us, even though today that percentage is very small, we read books as students to attempt or clear an examination. We also read other books which are not prescribed, which are not part of our syllabus. We also read others' books to enhance our understanding or better our learning. Because what is available, what is prescribed, today at least what is prescribed is perhaps some of the worst books on earth. Because the books that are prescribed are not prescribed for making people learn, but to sell some particular publishing house or somebody who is in the textbook committee. Okay. We also read for entertainment. And earlier, other than local entertainment, the only other global entertainment was the comic strips and other things, which even today are quite there, and newer versions have come. We also read to improve a skill. For example, game like chess, which has a running columns in almost all newspapers and magazines for the last 60, 70 years, covering in detail chess matches played where we didn't have TV or even radio. So that's one, and also game like bridge and recipe. Many of us improve our vocabulary, language, and grammar by doing crosswords. This is another interesting occupation for pastime for many, and a big occupation for people who are retired, spend a lot of time on crosswords. And what is interesting about crosswords is you have different levels of solution depending on your vocabulary, language, and grammar. Okay, which means conversely, doing this improves both vocabulary, language, and grammar. And today, crosswords are available in other languages. These are, while we are focusing on English, it's equally applicable to all other languages, at least the written languages. Okay. We also read short stories, classics, and other favorite authors. Some are obsessed with spy and crime stories because spy, yes. So please mute, no background, back channel talking, please. Some of us are obsessed with spy and crime stories and writers because they create a mystery, they create the intricacies which are not commonly found. After all, crime doesn't happen in our house every day. So it's a very few of us read poetry or enjoy poetry because poetry is a slightly different style. I'm not saying it's more mature, but good poetry also doesn't have correct grammar. One of the reasons poetry is nice is it breaks many rules of grammar and constructions of words. So that's why it sounds very interesting. Okay. Reading and enjoying poetry is more special and has different training and bent of mind to do. So large number of them don't enjoy poetry because it's definitely is, you need to prepare your mind to read and enjoy. But once you start reading and enjoying it, your regular writing and prose doesn't appear very appealing. So this is it. And finally, the choice of reading is always subjective. You have to be very clear because each individual's choice and taste and attitude and perception and background and orientation all are different. So you have to respect others' choices also, even if you don't like, even if they are not your favorite. Curriculum, however, makes some compulsory reading, which may not always be the best choice. I've already mentioned this once. And today, most prescribed books are slightly refined version of class notes, which are sold on the text on the footpath, because they think serious reading is difficulty for students. So let us make it easy for them. And so most of them have stopped reading. Okay. They read the notes, which is just meant for passing the exam rather than building up perception and competency. Okay. What do we mean by good reading? Good reading is also a skill. It's a cultivated art. We are not born good readers. We are compelled to read, and most of us spend our lifetime at that. But want to read. When I say good reading, it is two parts. The first part is material should be good. Second, you must read even an average material in a very interesting way. That is what is good reading. Okay.
वहीं जा रहे हो ऊपर.
So what we mean by good readers is they use different skills. Good readers read text in different ways, looking at the layout and headings and reading quickly to get a general feel for the text. So first round of skimming before reading more intensively or to find specific details. So skimming first, scanning later. And good readers guess the meaning of the words they don't know. So while you're reading, the context imbibes or instills a sense of understanding of a word which you may not have encountered. That's one reason why your vocabulary increases when you read. And what is interesting is when you want to read well, what is needed by your side is a copy of the dictionary. So the moment you keep a copy of the dictionary by your side while reading anything, you are clearly indicating that you are reading to improve, learn, and enjoy. A good reader is often able to guess the meaning of an unknown word. Learners who know to look for clues in the text are more able to work out the meaning of a new word and continue reading independently. For example, you can teach them how to look at the surrounding text, the word's position in the sentence, what type of word it is, and how prefixes and suffixes are used. This will help you understand what is written better. It is very difficult, particularly reading in English is difficult for most of us because a great majority of us, English is not our mother tongue. This is only a working language, functional, transactional. Okay. Please mute, no background talking. Good readers reflect on what they read. So when you read a paragraph or even a sentence, much more maybe a page, don't be in a hurry to move to the next page. Most of us read to say we have read and to complete it rather than understanding. Good readers think about what they read and make a note of new vocabulary, reflecting on what they like, what they learned, and want to know more about helps readers to make a sense of text, generating curiosity and motivation to read more. This is very important. So it can happen that the content may not be very good. So it may not motivate you to read more. That is the reason why you need to pick material which is generally understood to be good, which will trigger curiosity to know what it is, what are the other things that happen, what are the other things that can be inferred, maybe cross-checked. For example, you take the story of Karna, okay? You have similar stories across cultures. After all, Moses was also supposedly abandoned after birth in the river. So is the story of Achilles in Greek history, Greek literature. So this is what I meant by linking up with other things and to get a sense of curiosity to know, then you will realize a large amount of humanity across the world, across generations, across cultures, and across empires have had very similar experiences, similar thoughts, similar anecdotes. Which means humanity on the whole, not so different as we make out. We have some 200 different countries. But I think maximum we have about half a dozen different broad cultures. Okay. Now, who is a good reader? A good reader is one who understands the writer's intent, gains maximum knowledge from the text, retains it in the memory, and most importantly, a good reader is someone who keeps reading. This is very important. This is where we have problem with the students. Have you read it? Yes. With great difficulty, they will reproduce what was written without even understanding. Okay. Most of them don't even remember what they read because it's not in the memory. That's the reason why they have not read it well, or there's no good reading there. Okay. Reading may not seem like a skill we need to master. After all, we have been doing it since preschool. That is the problem. Reading has become more a chore than a passion or obligation, whatever it is. Okay. But are we all good readers? Effective reading is a problem for most of us. Skimming past a magazine is easy, but can you remember the exact headline of the article you are reading? A survey in United States found that 38% of independent readers are better achievers due to their high skill set. So those who have learned how to read better definitely are people who achieve things outside a limited evaluation scheme like exam. See, one reasons you may be surprised. A lot of undegreed high school dropout people are very successful politicians. Most of them who don't have formal background and are successful in politics are also people who are good orators. They speak very well. I will come to that speaking. They also, even if they don't have a degree, they are well read. Maybe in the vernacular, not necessarily in English. Okay. So to be a good reader, you need to learn what the words mean. Not only is a good reader attentive while going to writing, but they also pays attention to little details a mediocre reader usually misses. Also, effective reading goes hand in hand with learning. This is why this topic of reading, writing, and understanding is put. Understanding broadly means refined learning. Okay. Only someone specializing in going through data and difficult to comprehend information can truly keep discovering new things. On the face of it, you have some table of numbers. Only people who can perceive that, go beyond that, can understand what these numbers mean. For example, whether it is the GDP, the population ratio, whatever it is. So yesterday or day before, some data came, which means India's population ratio, 917 girls for 1,000 boys. That's just numbers. So if you ask a student what is gender ratio, they'll say 917 girls for 1,000 boys. But only a good reader will go beyond it. Oh, why is this skew? There must be other reasons. There must be other reasons which also indirectly indicates or makes you understand that gender biases are there, and there is selective abortion of female fetus. So many issues. While there are legislation, the idea is that there are other reasons beyond just the numbers. So that is what a good reader is. Going beyond the page, going between, understanding between the lines. That's a good reader. Okay. So characteristics of a good reader: reflect on the text. There are many things, but prominent ones. Reflect on that. A promising reader does not just read, but also understands the meaning, intent, and message behind the sentence. He interprets the words, spends some time understanding their meaning, and is always eager to learn more. Learns as they read. A brilliant reader is always looking for new things to learn. In fact, 42% of the French people think that reading leads to discovering and learning new things. For example, you can read a self-help book, a new recipe, or a fashion magazine and discover new things. That's why you see people experimenting with new dishes. Children today are exposed. They go to school and with their friends something, they go. I keep hearing even my son coming and telling his mother, why don't you make pav bhaji at home? We are in Karnataka, South India. Pav bhaji is typically a Maharashtrian and Western India dish, even though it's becoming pan-India. So the only way she can do it is to pick up a recipe book. And today, thanks to YouTube, you have a live demonstration also. So this is what it is. It may be today pav bhaji, tomorrow it may be a very important research outcome. Okay. Expands the vocabulary. Reading is excellent way to improve one's vocabulary. Studies show that each focused reading session adds a few new words. See, most of us live our life with probably an upper limit of between 400 and 600 words in English at least. Good readers have between 3,000 and 4,000 words vocabulary. Excellent readers touch about 7,000. So even if you add one new word to your vocabulary, in 5 years, you would have added approximately 1,500 new words. I think that is the, see, improvement is not sudden. Overnight, you don't become a Nobel laureate. Okay. You work incrementally and one day like an explosion, it happens. Okay. Most people who got the Nobel Prize were surprised when they were announced that they got it. Some even said, I'm sure, I hope you are not joking. Okay. So this is what it is. It is all incremental. We think one fine day we will all become scholars. It doesn't happen. Every day you have to make movement towards that. Okay. It sharpens the brain. Reading, when done right, can be effective exercise for your brain muscles. That's why today in America, which is a benchmark for all the problems which we will face after some time, our reading habit has been very poor. So today, acute cases of Alzheimer, dementia, all that have started. Secondly, they only talk in one language, which is another problem. Monolingualism builds up dementia and other things, Alzheimer's. Because when you talk in different language, different parts of the muscles act. When you talk only in one language, only one set of muscles work throughout. And that's why multilingualism is a sign that your dementia will either not happen or it will get delayed. So the first question anybody asks when it's dementia, this thing is your culture monolingual? Okay. So we are lucky. We speak 3, 4, 5 languages because Indians love to talk. And that's one reason we have very low percentage of dementia and Alzheimer's in the society, which unfortunately is now increasing. Okay. So it sharpens the brain. Okay. Exercise for your brain muscles. You can guess the meaning of new words using the reference to context. Alternatively, reading a book and recalling the lines after some time can be a fun memory game. It reinforces memory. Dementia means loss of memory is one prominent feature there. When reading something new, your brain creates new neurons and strengthens the old one. It boosts your memory and concentration span. Thus, reading is beneficial for brain functions. That is why we have a large number of poor performance in the academics, both at student level, at faculty level, more so at the vice chancellor's level. The reason is all these people are poorly read. Characteristics of good reader continued. Gets through complicated writings. Many times we are intimidated because we don't understand well, particularly if the reading is complicated. And I'm not saying that all reading should be complicated. In fact, popular reading has this simplicity. For example, one reason R.K. Narayan was very popular is his writings are very simple. Even a high school student can understand what is going on. Okay. So having a reasonable attention span and patience to read even the most complicated passages without losing interest is a sign of being a talented reader. So today everybody is like Usain Bolt. Everybody wants to win 100 meters race. Quick, very fast. Very few are people like Haile Gebrselassie, who at 34 years with 6 children won the marathon for the third time or fourth time. So what we want is quick reading is only for exams and interviews. Serious reading requires patience. You all have to be marathon type. The key is to delve into vocabulary, pause to understand the meaning and note the important points. Scientific reading is slightly different. I will not touch that. There are other things. And people also read fast. Reading and understanding simultaneously shouldn't make the reader slow. Some good at reading can go through tons of writing very quickly and grab it. But that's practice. It doesn't happen suddenly. Speed reading is a need of the hour. Whether you are a student trying to finish a book or stay at home, whatever it is, reading fast and still grasping the concept is crucial everywhere today because there is abundance of material available. Earlier, you probably had only one book. Today, thanks to the internet and Google and other things, for a given topic, you will probably have 10 good material parallelly available for you, and no one good article is complete. So each one has to. So you need to read fast to grab it. Okay. Puts different skills in reading. There are few techniques for reading swiftly and fruitfully. For instance, if you are reading a book, go through its table of contents first. It will give you an idea of what to expect. Also, instead of turning the pages randomly, you will know what section of the book will provide you insight. Later, after all of us are utilitarian, particularly in modern profession. Our reading is utilitarian. It's not complete. I just want to know what it is. I move on. And today there are parallel things like blog and all that. The not only table of contents, it's very interesting to read the preface of a book. Preface tells you why the writer wrote the book, what idea he had when he wrote the book, and what kind of readers he is having in mind when he wrote it. And I have a very interesting personal experience with this. I joined for a PhD in IIT Bombay. I had a very good guide who was not very keen to guide a student. He was more interested in motivating students to do better. So after joining approximately for 3.5 to 4 years, I really did not know what I need to do for my thesis. I tried many things, read so many different fields, etc., etc. And I was still, obviously, by end of 3.5 years of beginning, you start becoming anxious. Then As usual, we have a habit of going to the library every Monday, because every Monday by around 11 o'clock, all the new books for that week are displayed. That's a good library. Today, of course, we don't go. So one particular book caught my attention, which was on display, new books arrival. So I picked that book, read the preface. Preface was very well. He clearly said, I am writing this book because I found it difficult to do my PhD. I learned this topic without any background, no formal classes in this background, because these techniques were very important for my research. So I am writing this book so that others who also need to use this topic without having a formal background can benefit. It was like lightning bolt to me. I said, yes, this is the book that I should read, because it's the same techniques that I was trying to use for my thesis without having any formal background in that. Okay, it was slightly mathematical, that's a different issue. So this is really what it is. So the preface, the table of content, many times in literature, not only forward, afterward is also there. That will tell clearly what the writer is intending and what type of audience is best suited for that. Okay. A good reader also takes notes. Note taking is a tired and tried and tested technique for deeper understanding of any learning material. Studies prove that taking notes boosts your ability to process information, whether you're scribbling down the main points of a scientific journal or writing your favorite pieces from a novel. They also visualize the text. Another useful technique for better understanding is to visualize the words. Read the sentences and paint a picture of what the author is trying to say. It is scientifically proven that illustrations impact the human mind more than words. This is why we were all, I don't know this generation, our generation, we were lucky because all of us grew up listening to imaginary stories told by our grandfather and grandmother. We had no TV, no radio. They would recite something about Mahabharata or something and give us a mental picture, almost a visualization of how this. It was all imagination. Nothing like that had happened. But they were so descriptive and so visualizing the text. Fantastic. See, all great work has only two components. Working it the hard way, working with imagination. After all, Einstein's result is imagination first, writing later, experiment after 100 years. So imagination is very important, and imagination is possible only through visualization. Okay. That's why you have today picture books. You have books which talk. You have books now which actually you can be one of the characters in the book. That type of things are happening in the media now. Use your brain to make a mental portrait of what you are reading. It will maximize the amount of knowledge you gain from writing. Plus, it will be quite an exercise for your brain muscles. It's a win-win situation. Good readers also predict the next part. When reading a story or an opinionated article, try predicting what happens next using what you have already learned. Of course, very good writing means what you predict also goes wrong. Then it's very, very interesting. But what you predict happens, you are already sitting in the writer's shoe. That's very important. Okay. Take different conditions and possibilities into account and make an educated guess. Then keep reading to determine if your theory was right or wrong, and learn from the experience to make better guesses next time. The other characteristic is relates to what they read. Another good habit of avid readers is that they always relate the reading to real life. You can think of relatable movies, music, or real life incident to what you're reading at the moment. That's the reason why not so much the Ramayana, but the Mahabharata is so contextual even today Because every house has incidents of Mahabharata going on. Society is filled with events that can be related to Mahabharata. The better said, the better about the politics today, the party politics, whatever. Okay. The blind man should not be a king is equivalent to today. The idiot should not be the king, right? But he's by hierarchy and by dynasty, he has to be the king. This is the kind of situation which is very common everywhere. So Mahabharata is very interesting reading, not because it is in our culture, but it is a type of writing which is universal across culture and age and geography. Okay. I'm sure every house has one senior member who has sacrificed a lot, maybe remained a bachelor for the sake of the family. These are very common things, right? And researches more. A good reader doesn't stop at one book or essay. Rather, they dive deeper into the knowledge they are after. They pay attention to whatever questions arise in their mind when going through a text and are curious to find their answers. In this regard, internet is heaven for avid readers. You can keep searching various topics until you have gathered the answers to all your queries. Then come up with another topic and repeat. Also, reading makes you a better reader. So, good reading is a cultivated art. Conclusion on good reading. Reading is an essential skill for someone striving to be better in all worldly affairs. See, all said and done, the most liked opposition member in the parliament is Shashi Tharoor. Simply because he's an excellent writer, exceedingly avid reader, and he seems to have understand reality better than just party politics. No doubt about that. Okay. So better in all worldly affairs. In this digital world, most information is in the form of words. Thus, reading efficiently and quickly is the key to staying on top of your game. A good reader understands the importance of these skills and uses it to keep growing. They connect with the words, unravel their deeper meaning, learn new things, and read as much as they can in little time. Historically, they were always saying readers are leaders. Historically. Of course, there have been few exceptions like Kamraj or Annadore. But earlier, majority of the population did not know how to read. They were sensible. They could talk well, understand well, without reading or writing. Okay? But those who could read those days became leaders. No doubt about that. Okay? Today, readers are not leaders because majority of the population can read. Today, good readers are leaders. Okay. Yeah. So we can summarize. Would you consider yourself a good reader? Good reading also needs comprehension. That is quickly understanding things well. There are other attributes. Same thing that has been told.